Hi everyone, and welcome to the third part of this Emerald Kaizo Hardcore Nuzlocke attempt. In the last video we beat Flannery and Norman, as well as a bunch of Team Aqua and Magma grunts. But today we're taking on one of the most difficult sections of the game, the Magma Hideout. However, we first need to beat Winona, and to get there we need to battle all the trainers here. These are once again pretty difficult, and I'm especially referring to Ninja Eduardo. He's known for taking at least one or two of your team, and he opens with a bright powder fortress. The fortress sets up spikes, but luckily we hit a flamethrower to kill it. Next up is another bright powder mon, Venomoth this time. But since we're at full health, I go for another flamethrower to take it out. Next up is Cladle, so I bring in Fortress. Fortress is hit by a critical hit though, so I cannot fire off enough signal beams to take it out. But luckily we have a citrus berry, which means we have just enough health to live another and take out the Cladle. In comes Lantern, so I bring in Gardevoir. I hit a Psychic, which does surprisingly little, but we can fire off another to take it out. That did leave us at 2 HP though, so we could have been easily killed here. Dustclops then comes in, so I bring in Huntail and I hit a Super Fang to take away half of his health. But we are left at 14 HP, so I swap into Charizard. I hit a Bite, which flinches it, so next turn we can easily take it out with another. In comes Scyther, who hits an Air Slash on us and flinches us, leaving us at 16 HP. So I swap into Rapidash. Heatwave then misses thanks to the Bright Powder, and Superpower gets us all the way down to 5 HP. Rapidash's Flame Body did activate though, leaving the Scyther burned. But we do need to switch, and there really is only one option, Camerupt. I bring him in and I start praying that our Flamethrower hits, which it did. Scyther did get off a Superpower, but thanks to the clutch Flame Body burn, it does half damage, so Camerupt just barely lifts it. Just look at my team though, like literally every single member is in the red. Eduardo is scary, but luckily the other trainers are much more manageable. One does have a Slacking, but Slacking can be trivialized with Pokemon that know Dig or Fly. But just like with Norman, Winona is going to be a double battle, and she has all 3 legendary birds. This is a scary fight, but with pivoting the right way, we can easily beat her. Winona opens with Aerodactyl and Zapdos, and I send out Armaldo and Primeape. I send out Primeape because it baits flying moves from both Aerodactyl and Zapdos. By using Endure, Primeape basically just guarantees a free hit for Armaldo, who goes for Ancient Power on the Zapdos. Ancient Power barely misses out on the kill, but since both mons once again see the kill on Primeape, Armaldo gets off another free Ancient Power. I switch Primeape for Kabutops, who resist both incoming flying moves, and Armaldo takes out the Zapdos. Moltres comes in, and since both Pokemon see a kill on Kabutops with HP Grass and Earthquake, I pivot into Fortress, who can easily take those. This once again gives Armaldo a free hit, which one-shots the Moltres. In comes Crobat, and since Fortress can tank some hits, I leave him in. I hit an Ancient Power with Armaldo, who kills the Crobat, and in comes the Flygon, who is hit by Signal Beam. Once again, all Winona's mons see a kill on Fortress, so Armaldo can just stay in and hit another free move. Since Arrow isn't all that threatening, I want to hit Flygon. I only have one more Ancient Power left though, so I go for a Crush Claw. We also bring Salamence in for Fortress, and he gets off a nice Intimidate drop on both the Flygon and Aerodactyl. Crush Claw does fantastic damage and drops Flygon's defense. The next turn I make a mistake though. Salamence kills the Flygon with Dragon Claw, but I click Crush Claw again with Armaldo. The incoming Articuno is now hit by a Crush Claw, but if I click my last Ancient Power PP, Articuno would have been dead this turn. Now we're in a bit of a tough spot. Articuno will see a kill on both, but he is most likely to Ice Shard and kill the Salamence. So I decide to stay in with Armaldo and fire off the last Ancient Power. Luckily it all turned out well, as I swap Relicanth in on a weak Ice Shard and Armaldo can take out the Articuno. Aerodactyl is the last one left, and for the first time this entire battle, I switch out Armaldo. I bring in Salamence while Relicanth hits an Ice Beam, which freezes. But Aerodactyl has a Lumberry, so it doesn't really matter. Next turn I hit a Dragon Claw and go for Yawn for some reason, but I miss. We live every move though, so the turn after I hit a Dragon Claw and take out the Aerodactyl, winning us our 6th badge. That battle went really well. If I didn't mess up the Crush Claw on Armaldo, this battle was near perfect. An easy win, 0 deaths, and a great display of the power of baiting moves and pivoting into the right Pokemon to tank those moves. With Winona down, we can now progress the story, and we do that by going through a difficult rainy route. There are some scary trainers here, but most are easily beaten. There's a section where you need to fight 2 trainers back to back, but that can easily be circumvented by having a Pokemon that knows Fly and just flying back to Fortree. In the end we did reach Lilycove, which you can actually only reach if you have a flying Pokemon, as there are 2 Team Aqua grunts blocking the path. We fly in and we can progress from here. I also made sure to catch some new Pokemon. We got an Execute on a route that leads to Lidigrove, which is going to be super important. We also made our way to Mount Pyre, where we got another super important encounter. You can find several ghost types here, and ghost types are extremely useful. We ended up finding a Ghastly, arguably the best one we could have gotten here. I then also caught a Togetic in Lidigrove, which is about as useless as it can be. And after that, it's time to beat May again. She has been moved here, so she's no longer an optional battle, so we need to face her. She leads Miltank as I send out Hariyama. We both go for a fake out, but she hits first, flinching us. I then hit a cross chop for the Oko and in comes Blastoise. Now I know in the last video I got a lot of comments about using cross chop, and to be fair, I only realized it wasn't 100% accurate after I got all those comments. I guess I just got really lucky. In comes Blastoise and I bring in Lantern and confuse it. Since Blastoise is spamming Mirror Coat, I don't want to hit a Shockwave, so I swap into Hariyama. I hit a fake out and swap right back into Lantern. I then make sure to confuse it again before swapping right back into Hariyama for another fake out. Blastoise is now at low enough health to take himself out with the Water Spout recoil damage. In comes Meganium, so I bring in Swallow. He's hit with a Giga Drain, which does next to nothing as we go for an Air Slash. This flinches, so next one takes it out. Blaziken comes in, so I switch into Gardevoir. A Psychic easily one-shots it, which brings in Ampharos. I swap into Sand Slash and 2 Earthquakes are enough to take it out. Last stop is Nidoqueen, so I bring in Xaltu. He's hit by Ice Beam, which also freezes, so I need to switch again. I bring in Hari and hit a fake out, and then hit a cross chop for little damage. We did get poisoned by Poison Point though, but we barely hang on 4 HP. I swap into Gardevoir, who can luckily outspeed and kill with Psychic, winning us this battle. It did get a little too close for comfort, but we won. Before progressing, I wanted to pick up one more encounter, the one that we can get in the Safari Zone. In the Safari Zone there are a ton of great encounters, but I could use a semi-decent normal type, so I went for the first area. I was hoping for a Vigoroth, but we ended up with a Granbull, which is decent I guess. But now we are in for a long evil team ride. We have to take on Mount Pyre with a gauntlet of 3 back-to-back battles and an admin fight. We have to take on the Team Magma Hideout, which has Perma Sun, an admin battle with a Regirock and a Maxie 2 battle with an Entei. And after we do all that, we need to take on the Team Aqua Hideout with yet another difficult admin battle. Yeah, this is going to be tough. This is a section that I think is the most difficult part of Emerald Kaizo. So, first up, those 3 back-to-back battles. First though, we need to climb the entirety of Mount Pyre, which already houses some difficult battles, but we made it through unscathed, and now it's time for those 3 back-to-back ones. I crafted a team consisting of Armaldo, Sceptile, Hariyama, Tentacruel, Xaltu and Donphan. These 6 should be able to do it. I lead with Armaldo against the first grunt, who sends out the Lunatone. An X-Scissors is an easy one-shot, as we're put to sleep but woken up by our berry. In comes Cloyster, but since we can live any hit, I go for an Ancient Power. But before we can do anything, Cloyster just blows himself up. Luckily, Armaldo can easily take an explosion. In comes Clamperl, so I bring in Sceptile. Leaf Blade just takes it out, and in comes Ludicolo. I swap into Tentacruel, who can eat up anything Ludi has to throw at it, and a Sludge Bomb just takes it out next turn. In comes Electabuzz, who will go for Thunder, which gives us a free swap into Donphan, who then just kills with Earthquake. Last up is Nidoqueen, who also just goes down to an Earthquake. Now, while we cannot leave this place, we can heal up our mons. I heal everyone up with all the berries we have, and I distribute the needed berries for the next fight. The next round opens with an Umbreon, and we still have Armaldo in the lead. Umbreon goes for a Toxic, but we have a Pecha Berry to shake it off. We then retaliate with X-Scissors, Okoing the Umbreon. In comes Gorbis, so I bring in Sceptile. Leaf Blade takes easy care of it, and in comes Tentacruel. I make the switch into Xaltu, who can outspeed and hit an easy 2-shot. Next up is Quagsire, so I bring Sceptile back in to take it out with a Leaf Blade. Next up is Gyarados, so I bring in Armaldo. He gets hit by a bounce, but Ancient Power is enough to one-shot the Gyarados. Last up is Clefable, who knows Belly Drum. I bring in Hariyama and hit a Fake Out plus Force Palm combo before the Clefable could get scary. That's the second grunt done. The last grunt opens with Glalie, and we have Hari up front. We hit Fake Out and Cross Chop for a free kill as Glalie hits a weak Blizzard. In comes Slowbro, so I bring in Sceptile. A Leaf Blade easily picks up the kill here, and in comes Omastar, who also just goes down to a single Leaf Blade. In comes Poliwrath, who also just goes down to a single Leaf Blade, and in comes Armaldo. Now it's time to switch, so I bring in Tentacruel. He's hit by weak X scissors and I one-shot it with Surf. Last up is Gengar, who I also use Surf on. It does over half, so I stay in for another. Only one thing I did not notice is that Gengar has a Salac berry, which raises its speed. It now outspeeds Tentacruel and got off a Destiny Bond. Our Surf then proceeds to kill it, but this means that Tentacruel also goes down. Damn, that's a really bad loss. It's only our 5th death, but Tentacruel is an amazing mon, so that really sucked. Luckily we still have Quillfish, but yeah. But now that those 3 back-to-back battles are behind us, we can finally ascend the actual Mount Pyre. First we need to battle some grunts, but after that Aqua Admin Matt awaits us. Now Matt is one of those few battles here where we have to face something that's called risky AI. In simple terms, opponents with risky AI are much more likely to just go boom on anything. And Matt's first Pokemon is a Wailord with Explosion, so we need to plan some things. Wailord is best countered here by something that can take it out, but would also not be too bad if he was killed by Explosion. I eventually landed on Azumarill, who does some solid damage thanks to huge power, but is ultimately not all that useful. Matt sends out Wailord and I send out Azumarill. I go for a huge power boosted superpower and hit for over half, but Wailord actually went for the self-destruct. This takes down Azumarill and rest in peace my friend. Since Matt will probably send him a champ, I send out Gardevoir. This is an easy one-shot with Psychic and in comes Slacking. Now this thing is scary, but I know Gardevoir can take one Hyper Beam, he just needs to not get crit. We barely managed to live and I can now bring in Swallow and use Fly on the Slacking. This means we now land on the loafing turn and are flying on the attacking turns. In other words, Slacking cannot hit us. A few flies take it out and in comes Executor. He has ancient power, so Swallow needs to switch out. I bring in Fortress, but Executor just went for Explosion. Risky AI, I guess. Anyway, thanks to the Steel type, we easily take it. Gyarados comes in next and he is holding a Bright Powder. I swap into Plusle because if he misses, he wouldn't be too bad to lose, but luckily we hit our Thunderbolt and we one-shot it. Last up is Dragonite, so I switch into Relicanth. He can easily take both Extreme Speed and Superpower and can one-shot afterwards with Head Smash. This wins us the battle, but we did lose Azumarill. But in all honesty, I risk many more mons here. I risk a crit on Gardevoir, but I only did that because Gardevoir does not have Trace, so he is way less valuable. I also risk Plusle as it could miss Thunderbolt on a Gyara, but yeah, I mean it's a Plusle. Anyway, the battle was won, but the hardest part is yet to come. It's time for the Team Magma hideout. Now to put simply why this place is so hard, it's basically Flannery's gym on steroids. Permanent sun, lots of chlorophyll mons, lots of solar beams, and since it's the evil team section, lots of shady items. This is not easy. And to top it all off, there's a total of 16 grunts we need to beat before we can even attempt the hardest two. We ended up doing really well against all these grunts, most were checked by my own mons, of which I would like to point one out. There are a few Jumpluff around here that simply just cannot touch a Vileplume. These battles always ended up in a long stall fest, as Vileplume would always be put to sleep, but Jumpluff just couldn't do anything. Eventually though, we ended up against Team Magma admin Courtney, and she opens with a Charizard and I send out Primeape. Primeape outspeeds and I can pick up the kill with Rock Slide. This then baits in Salamence, who will use Air Slash. This is the perfect opportunity to bring in Dewgong, who will just manage to live a Draco Meteor. Unless we get crit of course, but this is the safest play I could find. We then fire off an Ice Beam, which takes out the Salamence. This brings in Regirock and I equip Dewgong with a Citrus Berry so that he will hopefully bait Ancient Power. I then swap into Sceptile, who I pre-damage to the point where an Ancient Power from Regirock will put us into Overgrow range. The Overgrow boost makes sure that Leaf Blade can one-shot the Regirock. In comes Castform, so I swap into Relicanth. Weather Ball doesn't do much, but Castform also knows Solar Beam. With this in mind, I bring in our pre-burned Guts boosted Swallow, who can easily take Solar Beam and hit a Facade for the kill. This brings in Venusaur and he will outspeed and kill us with Ancient Power. So I go back into Relicanth, who can take the Ancient Power and bait Solar Beam right after. Because we bait Solar Beam, we can now bring in Salamence, who also resisted. This gives us a safe switch and we can then Air Slash to take it out. Last up is Kangaskhan, so I go back into Primeape. We're hit by a Fake Out, but I hit a Brick Break after. Crush Claw then nearly kills us, but to be honest, losing Primeape here isn't all that bad. But we live and we outspeed, so another Brick Break does the job. This battle is a great example of why pivoting is so important. We had Relicanth on the team, but his only job was to resist one move and bait another, so we had to safe switch. But now we're in for the real challenge. Maxie. Now Maxie can be trivialized by a Gardevoir that knows Trace. You just kill the first mon, bait out Executor and trace its chlorophyll, ensuring that you can outspeed everything and you can basically one-shot everything as well. However, our Gardevoir has synchronized, so we're out of luck. After theory crafting for many hours, I did come up with a plan, but it involved some sacks and it still wasn't a guaranteed win. I open a battle with a Sandslash, who's holding the soft sand. The soft sand item ensures that Earthquake will be a 2-hit KO, but in the meantime we need to dodge a critical hit Solar Beam. Luckily we do, and we manage to take out a Tyranitar with just 2 Earthquakes. This brings in Gengar, and here's where we need to sack. We just cannot safely switch in anything right now, so Sandslash has to go. Rest in peace, buddy. But we can now bring in an Executor, who can easily outspeed and one-shot the Gengar with Psychic. This brings in Flygon, and I make the hard switch into Dualgon. Heatwave does next to nothing, thanks to her thick fat ability, and then we hit an Ice Shard. I go for Ice Shard because this minimizes our chances of being flinched or crit. An Ice Shard critical hit would kill. Flygon would always hit us once, whether we go for Ice Shard or Ice Beam. However, if we hit a critical hit Ice Shard, we would take it out in one shot, and this would mean that Dualgon would not get hit at all. However, we needed to hit 2 Ice Shards anyway, so this kills the Flygon and in comes Arcanine. I swap into Camerupt, who takes about half damage from a Solar Beam, and then we manage to live a Heat Wave as well. Earthquake then manages to one-shot the Arcanine, taking away another huge threat. But now it's time for another sack. Camerupt has served its purpose by taking out Arcanine, and we need a clean switch. I let Camerupt go against the Executor and bring in Armaldo. Armaldo can barely live one hit, but he cannot get crit thanks to its Shell Armor ability. And he can retaliate with an X-Scissor for the free kill. Now you may have noticed that Armaldo was already damaged. I actually pre-damaged Armaldo to the point where a Solar Beam would get us in the range of Entei's Extreme Speed. Entei is a lost Pokemon and his Sacred Fire will destroy basically anything. So by forcing him to go for Extreme Speed, since he sees the kill with it and it's a priority move, we can switch into Executor. Executor is able to live an Extreme Speed plus an Extreme Speed crit if necessary, and it outspeeds thanks to its Chlorophyll ability in the sun. So now we just need to click Explosion and Entei is gone. Once again, seeing a battle play out like this makes it look easier than it is. This battle took a few hours of theory crafting, and getting Armaldo in the exact HP range with a low Solar Beam roll would still put us in Extreme Speed range, just so Executor could come in safely and blow himself up, is not something you just come up with on the spot. Anyway, Maxie 2, arguably the most difficult fight of this game, is now behind us. And to celebrate that, I finally get my Magma Hideout encounter. I go into the room where we potentially can get a Blaziken, but I end up finding a Crobat. Not too bad, but a speedy Blaziken would have been perfect. Now I didn't realize it up till now, but we actually have the same May battle here once again. I'm not sure if I messed up by not saving correctly or anything, but we have another May battle on our hands. She leads with her Miltank once more and I send up Machamp. Cross Chop is an easy one shot after flinching from Fake Out and May sends up Blastoise. I go into Lantern and hit a Thunderbolt for good damage. On the second Thunderbolt, May actually switches into her Meganium, so next turn I bring in Swallow. He can easily 2-shot the Meganium with Air Slash and in comes Blaziken. I bring Gardevoir in and his Psychic seals the deal. Ampharos comes in, so I bring in Machamp, but he's hit in the red and is left paralyzed. I then swap into Salamence, who can take a few Thunderbolts. He retaliates with Dragon Claw and on the second he actually crits. The crit is massive as Salamence is left paralyzed and on 2 HP. I do not want to see Salamence in the red at all. In comes Nidoqueen, so I bring in Dewgong. Dewgong is quite bulky, so he tanks the Thunderbolt and Poison Fang and 2 shots with Bubble Beam. Last stop is a weak Blastoise, so I stay in, eat up the Water Spout and kill with Ice Beam. Now that May is defeated for the second time, I can make my way into the Aqua Hideout, or as I like to call it, Boom City. Seriously, just about every single Aqua Grunt here has at least one exploding Pokemon. It's unreal. Anyway, these grunts are pretty trivial, especially the Slacking that locks himself into Hyper Beam. See why Ghost types are so useful? But there are also a bunch of mons that only know Explosion, so just leading with Gengar instantly makes most battles a 6v5. We eventually end up at Mat 2, the last boss battle of this long Evil Team section. Mat 2 is super difficult once again, but I have a plan. Mat opens with Glalie and I send out Hariyama. He's hit by an Intimidate, but I open with a Fake Out. We then get hit by Ice Beam, but we retaliate with Cross Chop, taking out the Glalie. We lived every crit roll, so even though Ice Beam did about half, we were safe. This brings out Dragonite, but Relicanth is the perfect Dragonite killer. We switch him in on the hidden power and then Dragonite just goes for Dragon Dance. after which we one-shot him with a powerful 150 base power head smash. This brings in Tauros, who is banded, so whatever move he uses, he's locked into it. So with Relicanth out, we lock him into Earthquake. So if we just swap in Salamence, we can now get a free kill here. A few Dragon Claws do the trick and in comes Kingdra. Now this thing is super scary. It only has Dragon type as a weakness and it fires off super strong Draco Meteors. I bring in Relicanth as Kingdra sets up the rain. Next turn he hits an Octazooka, as Rayleigh fires off another head smash. This does about half, but we need to switch now. I bring in Hari, but Matt also switches for some reason. In comes Machamp, so I hit off a fake out and then bring in Gardevoir. He's hit by a superpower, but Psychic takes it out next turn. Kingdra then comes back in, so I use Hypnosis on it. I completely forgot he had a Lumberry, so he wakes up right away and almost kills Gardevoir with a Draco Meteor. Luckily we live and can now outspeed with a Psychic for the kill. Last up is Wailord, and it's great that he's lost. The Wailord knows Explosion, but since he's the last mon in Matt's team, he will never go for it. So I bring in Wobbuffet and use a Mirror Coat on the incoming Ice Beam. This just misses out on a kill, and afterwards Wailord just goes to sleep. I just keep spamming Mirror Coat, but as Wailord wakes up, he hits an Ice Beam that freezes. Damn, now we are in trouble. Full health Wailord, and mind you, Wailord is hugely buffed in this game. It's basically Kyogre. I bring in Fortress and hit some Signal Beams, hoping for the confusion, as Wailord can't really damage us. He does keep spamming Rest though, which is annoying. Eventually though, the Signal Beams and confusion hits take it out, winning us this battle. With Matt behind us, the whole of Hoenn opens up for us, or at least most parts. We can now surf to Mossdeep City and even all the way to Pacific Lock. In other words, we're about to get a bunch of encounters. So first off, we pick up the Super Rod and then we go on a large encounter spree. First up is Route 124, where we find a Remoraid. Next up is a guaranteed Cloyster or Shelter, and I do need to mention that I wrote down all the encounters for the coming routes, so we can optimize and guarantee a lot of them. I then go to Route 122 and fish up a Sharpedo, which is amazing for dupes as it appears literally everywhere. And next up is Route 126, where arguably one of the most important encounters lies. Is Slowpoke. Slowpoke either has Oblivious or Shell Armor, and Shell Armor is key here. Luckily we got lucky the first time and we find a Slowpoke with Shell Armor. We then go to Route 130 and fish up a Mantine, and then on Route 132 we fish up a Staryu. We then start fishing in Pacific Lock until we finally get the 4% Omastar encounter, before going to Route 125 to fish up a 100% guaranteed Celio. We then go to Route 129 to fish up the last mon here that I don't have, a Credilli, after which we go to Route 131 where we surf. The only encounters left here are Altaria at 1% and Misdreavus at 4%. Misdreavus is fantastic with its ghost typing, so that's what we want. We end up finding one luckily, and last stop on Route 108 I fished up a 1% Wilmer, of which I lost my footage. But Wilmer was guaranteed here as all the other Pokemon were dupes. In the Shoal Cave I was hoping to find a Glalie, but I ended up with probably the worst thing, a Swinub. With the huge catching spree behind us, it's time to head to the 7th gym. But that will have to wait for the next part. This section of the game took just as long as beating the first 3 gym leaders, but now we only beat 1. The majority of the section was spent on taking out the evil teams. I mean seriously, after beating Winona, we took on Mount Pyre with a back-to-back-to-back trainer gauntlet, we took on Aqua admin Matt and his risky AI exploding Mons, we took on the entirety of the Team Magma hideout, we took on Team Magma admin Courtney, we took on Maxie too, we then took on the entirety of the Team Aqua hideout, and we finished that off by yet another Aqua admin Matt battle. With that said though, I think the most difficult part, aside from the Elite Four, is now behind us. I honestly feel like Maxie 2 is the most difficult battle out there, and we just passed it. We did once again lose a good chunk of Pokemon, and most notably is Executor. But he was vital for the survival of this run. Booming on Entei was super important. Anyway, this run is really shaping up to be something. The majority of the game from here on out is going to be all about choosing the right Pokemon to explode on. I want to thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.